Hey guys, welcome back to our 100-day challenge, and today is day 19 where we are going to talk about AWS networking. So mostly we will talk about today about subnetting and routing. This routing is related to our virtual private cloud. That is a part, or we can say the key component of our AWS networking. But before that one, we need to understand what exactly this AWS networking is. So AWS networking is a set of cloud services that allows user to create fast, reliable, and secure network. Okay, so because of this secure network only, we are very confident that our application and services are secure in the cloud platform, and we are able to access this services from our machine very confidently because of this trust which they are providing. So there are some technologies they use for making this network secure. So we need to go through those components as well. I'll also try my best to keep this session very simple. I know that networking is a hard part for most of the guys who is working in IT. So I'll keep everything very simple. Now let's understand why networking needed in the cloud. You can see in the picture there are clients. These clients are our machines. So it can be your computer, laptop, mobile, anything which you are going to use to access your application. There are some servers you can see. These are the servers where our application and services are running, and those are hosted in the cloud in this scenario. So the thing is, networking is kind of a media to access these application from our client machines. Okay, so there are something called cloud networking come into picture, which help us to provide this connectivity. So there might be possible this machine is in your organization. It might be possible it is in cloud itself, or it might be possible that this machine is in your home. So there are different kind of scenarios through which we access this application which is hosted here, or the services which is hosted in this cloud server. We are accessing from these kind of machines. So these can be anything. Okay, so there are certain connectivity which we require. You can see we require one connectivity from here to here. We have required from here to here, and there are some components. Those components are part of our AWS network. Okay, so we will talk about these components. So just understand, cloud network is required to connect from your client machine to the application or services which is running on the cloud. That's why we need networking. Next thing, how these clients connect to the servers, that also we need to understand, right? So when we talk about the server, these servers can be anything. Your mail server, if you are using Gmail, Hotmail, or any Office 365, whatever mail box you are using, these are hosted on some of the servers, right? So just take an example of a mail server here. You are using some drives also, right, to keep your documents and all. So these are belongs to file server, and you are accessing some website. Those are the hosted on the web server. Here we are having different kind of protocols and ports which needed to access these applications. So what are these ports and protocols are? So protocol which is mentioned here, for mail server we are having SMTP, for file server we are having SMB, for web server we are having HTTP. Okay, so these protocols are kind of a set of rules that actually defines or tells how two devices can communicate with each other. In this case, two devices are our client machine and the server. And what are these ports are? Ports are, you can understand, it's like a door on this server on which it will access this particular service. If this port is 25, that means it belongs to the SMTP, and it's having a mail server here. Similarly, if you want to access file server, you need to define the port here. I mean, it should be open, then only you will be able to access any file. Similarly, for accessing any website which is not secure, that is HTTP. If it is secure, then you will have HTTPS, and the port number will be 443. So this is how our client machine can access these services which is hosted on the server through the cloud network, but it requires some additional information like protocols, ports, gateways, and subnets, whatever it is related to your server. So that is required to understand by this client machine. So this is how our client machine connect to the server. Now let's understand what is AWS networking. So as we already mentioned that AWS networking is a set of cloud services that allow users to create fast, reliable and secure networks. So what these cloud services are? So these are kind of a component. If you see here, I took different example. Here if you see, we are having one VPC, one availability zone and one region. Okay. So everything we are having one here. If you see here, different architecture, here we are having single region, but we are having multiple availability zones here. If you see, we are having some other component after region and we are having this VPC here also. But you can see VPC is not belongs to only one availability zone here. It is extending, right? So we can say VPC is can work with multiple availability zone, but within a region we can have that VPC. Means this VPC can't cross this region. Similarly, if you see other components like subnets, we are having subnets. Here we are having public subnet. Okay. So this subnet can be anything. Means there are different kind of subnet that we will talk about. And then we are having some instances. These are the cloud machines, or we can say EC2 instances on AWS. And we are having security group as well. Here we are having gateway, which is helping us to connect to the internet. Through this gateway, we can connect to the internet. So these are the few components which comes together to build a AWS network. So AWS offers different kind of services, including Amazon VPC, region, availability zone, Amazon Route 53 load balancer, gateways. We are having different kind of gateways, like we are having net gateway, we are having internet gateway, which is mentioned here, and along with this we are having express route gateway as well. So, sorry, that is in Amazon. We are having direct connect gateway as well. So we are having different kinds of gateway. But what this AWS networking actually offers, it offers us that we can separate our cloud infrastructure. See, within a region, means in within our organization we are working for different department. We don't want that one department should have access to the system which belongs to different department, right? Or we can have multiple clients. We don't want that this client's machine should access this one, even those are belongs to our organization. Okay. So what will happen, this VPC, you can see, right? This VPC help us to separate this particular network into multiple. So we can have separate network for this client, for example, A client, for B client, and for C client. We can have different network. Similarly, it can help us to scale up our workload request, and also this network, what we are going to discuss, it help us to connect physical network to the personal private virtual network. So here the gateway you can see. Here it is helping us to connect to the internets. Similarly, we are having direct connect. Okay, direct connect. What it do? We will talk in detail when we'll go through the gateways. But direct connect help us to connect this VPC, this virtual network which we created to our organization. Means our on-premises environment. It help us to connect that one. So now you understood what is AWS networking, why it is required, and what are the key component which is required. Everywhere if you see talk about the AWS networking, you come into picture. So you will discuss subnet, VPC, gateways. These all are the key component which is required to build our networking part within the AWS. Now let's talk about understand. Now let's understand what is subnet. So subnet is a range of IP address within a VPC. If you see here, for a whole VPC, we have subnet defined, okay? But we can have multiple subnet inside one VPC. So we are having subnet A, subnet B, subnet C, and these all belongs to this particular range, which is mentioned here. So a subnet is a range of IP address within a VPC. It must reside entirely within a availability zone. So if you see here, here it's an example of one secure availability zone, but here we are having multiple availability zone. But you can see this particular subnet. It's within this availability zone, right? Similarly, this subnet is belongs to this availability zone only. That means that subnet must reside entirely within one availability zone. So subnets are used to and next thing, subnets are used to logically segment a VPC and to control network traffic. How it will control? For example, we are having a VPC, we are having multiple subnets. So we are having some machine. For example, we are having web server, we are having DB server, right? We want that user from internet can access this application. But do you want that this should have the access to your DBs as well? Means your end user, which is sitting here, can access this DB? No, you no, don't want, right? So in this case, what we will do, we will take one subnet as a public and we will take another subnet as a private. So this web server, we will keep it here, or we can do like we can use one load balancer here and we can keep that one in our public subnet. But we don't want this DB should access from the internet, so we will keep it where? We will keep it in a private subnet. So by default, they will not have the connectivity, and this is the best practice. This is how we logically segment VPC to different subnets, and then we can control the network traffic flow based on our requirement. Now let's talk about the types of subnet. As I mentioned, we are having different kind of subnet. We have already seen the private public subnet and private subnet. We are having one more kind of subnet. Those are known as a specific subnet. Those are used for some special cases which we require. We are having isolated subnet and we are having VPN only network. So VPN only network is actually required when we need to build VPN connection between AWS cloud to your machine. So these are the some specific cases. Just understand we are having four types of subnet, but we categorize into three: public, private, and specific or other subnet. Now let's understand what is VPC. As we already discussed, right? This VPC, it's a kind of a virtual network which is dedicated to your AWS account. So by default, when you will create your account, you will be dedicated. So whenever you create your account, you will have one VPC by default. So it's logically isolated from other virtual network in the AWS cloud, and we can launch our AWS resources, any resources which we want to use within this VPC. Here you can see instances, subnet, these all things we need to create. Even this internet gateway, when we want to use, we need to create this thing. So this should be within our VPC and we can launch these resources within our VPC, which is belongs to our account. So your account contains a default VPC for each AWS region, and you can also create additional VPC. If you want more VPC within a region, see, if you are having access to one region, region 1, so you can have multiple VPCs also, and within a VPC we can use multiple availability zone. So it's all depend on our requirement. If you are looking for high availability, if you are looking for scalability, if you are looking for disaster recovery solution, you can, based on your requirement, you can launch our services accordingly. Now let's understand VPC routing. So VPC routing is actually a process of directing traffic within a VPC or to and from external resources. What does that mean? When I'm talking about the within VPC, see, within VPC means within a VPC, we are having multiple devices, right? It can be your storage, it can be your EC2, means virtual machine, it can be your application server, database server, whatever component you are having. You need some connectivity between that one, right? So VPC routing is required to connect the two devices. Also, If you want to access some resources or internet, then you require one more type of connectivity from here to here. So any kind of connectivity you require, by default within a subnet you have the connectivity, but when you want to connect from inside to outside, or you want to connect to different VPC, you require some gateway that we will talk about. When we are talking about connecting to outside world, here we are having two types of network traffic. One is inbound and outbound. Inbound traffic is something when from internet somebody is accessing our AWS network. Outbound traffic is required when we want to upload anything, means our traffic is going towards internet. When you are uploading any file to the internet, then it will be outbound traffic. If you want to downloading something or sending traffic from internet to your VPC or your AWS network, it is a inbound traffic. So whatever connectivity you require, this is known as a VPC routing. But how it works? So it's normally works on the basis of your destination, that is also known as target, and types of route you are using. So here you can see this internet gateway, right? So it is helping this instance or these instance which is available in this public subnet, because from public subnet we can have the connectivity to the internet. We are using this internet gateway, and in the route table you can see the destination will be, when you are talking about destination and local, if this range belongs to your VPC, that means here the route is within the VPC itself. So one resource from another resource, for example. By default, it is having the connectivity within this range. If you are talking, see this one, this 000/0, what it represent? It represent internet. So whenever any traffic will go to the internet, it requires internet gateway. Internet gateway, in short, be known as IGW. So this is how we need to understand. If this machine, you can see, right, route this one, destination internet. For this one, it is having the connectivity here. So this is how actually VPC routing works, and it uses route table. And we will talk about these all key components in detail in our coming session. For the timing, just understand VPC routing is the process of directing traffic within VPC or external world. Now let's understand multi VPC routing. So we have taken an example previously for the VPC to the internet. Now we are having multiple VPCs. That means these VPC might be within belongs to same region, or it might belongs to different region. For example, VPC A is here, VPC B is also here, and VPC C belongs to here. So here we are having R1, here we are having R2. So whenever we are connecting any VPC, means either we are connecting from this one to this one, A to B, we require gateway, or from this VPC to this VPC, we require gateway. So either we are connecting to different VPC, then also we require a gateway. Whenever we need to connect from VPC to internet, then also we require gateway. The only thing, when we are having connection within a VPC, we don't require gateway. So whenever two VPC come into picture, or VPC and internet come into picture, your gateway is required. Next thing, when we are connecting VPC A to VPC B, okay, these are in same region, right? So we need to peer these connections. So what will happen when we are having this peering? These two different network will behave as a single network, and all the resources from this network to this network by default will have the access. And this kind of peering is known as a local peering, or we can say local peering connection. But when we are having connection between different regions VPC. For example, these two, these are known as a remote peering or remote peering connection. So this is how we need to understand how the routing works and what kind of gateway it required, what is the term we use when we are discussing these all things. So guys, that's it in this video. I hope you find this video helpful. If you like my efforts, then don't forget to click on like button, subscribe this channel for more videos and share with your friends for more reach out. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring and keep transforming. See you in next video.